Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Murkowski. Let me just say, first of all, is one of the greatest concerns, I think all of you, and I know that Mr. Livers, that you've said, I'm more concerned about how we start getting priced. Who controls the American pricing? And once you go into that overseas market, you lose your ability to set your own destiny. Is that correct? Is that probably one of the, I mean, people are coming to me and say, you know, you keep telling us how much oil you're developing now in America, but our gas prices haven't gone down. How come?
Yeah, the ultimate point here is that energy, it's fungible price around the world on a world basis is oil. Make no mistake. Everything else is domestic. Nuclear, even coal tracks oil.
Has OPEC always controlled the pricing of oil? I mean, we developed our nation on oil. We found we have a state was rich in oil back in the turn of this 19th century, 20th century.
State-owned enterprises own 75% of the world's oil reserves and 50% of the production. So state-owned enterprises, OPEC, from the early 70s to this very day, sets the world price based on supply. They regulate supply. You know this, right?
And I don't think anybody in the gas industry would want that to happen to gas prices, would you?
Well, Senator, let me respond to that if I can. First, as it's been predicted, due to this great technology we've been talking about, this game-changing opportunity, experts now predict if we're continued down this road that the free market has brought us, the United States will surpass Saudi Arabia as the #1 oil producer in the world in 7 short years by 2020. We can ultimately have an impact, and it all comes back to the free market. That's why we've got to be very sensitive and mindful of attempting to intervene or to manage price or spots in the marketplace.
And I know you all, I'm so sorry we've been running back and forth in committees and all that, but I've been keeping up with what was going on here. You all do agree that basically this is probably our last great chance to have this type of a find in energy that could be a game changer for our country. In renaissance of manufacturing, transportation fuel, and what I think the question was asked by the chairman, where's the sweet spot? Well, I think what we're saying is how can we work with you on exporting certain amounts, give us a time frame to build up the demand in this market here in the United States. Can you all live with something like that?
Yeah, well, Senator, most of us believe we're just at the front end of this gale, if you will, both on shale, gas, and oil, that we haven't yet fully appreciated. Just recently there was an announcement in California, the Monterey, which some estimate to be an oil reserve 4 times larger than what we found in North Dakota.
But it doesn't do us any good at all because the price is still $4 a gallon, $3.50, $4 a gallon. So I don't know, you can find it until the
but it all comes back to supply and demand. It comes back to what we produce and how we put that into that global marketplace. Trust me, the world...
Get on the level of a consumer in America today, hearing reports that we have more energy now, we're about to be a net exporter, and yet they haven't seen any of their costs come down.
No, let's use natural gas as a price. It's a great, as an example, and it's a great question. Today, as a result of the natural gas price coming from about $14 to $3, the average family in America that consumes natural gas costs have gone down $1,000 a year. That's estimated to increase to a couple $1,000s a year as we become even more energy efficient. So there is a very significant positive consumer impact, not to mention the environmental benefits, et cetera, as the chairman's interested.
I think finally the question I want to try to get to, I'm looking for, I guess, as the chairman keeps saying, the sweet spot. There's got to be an area where we can say, okay, we can, with the proven reserves we have or the anticipated reserves that we have, we can export this much. We can dedicate this much time to develop the markets in America. We can transform our transportational fuels. I've always said that I thought every state, when I was a governor, if someone would come and say, listen, we'll help you transfer all of your commercial fleet, which would be our school buses, our mass transportation, our state road vehicles, into gas-propelled vehicles. Working out of bulk stations, it would be the most cost-effective thing we could do. We could develop that within a 5-year period. We could have a renaissance of manufacturing. We have the crackers, as we're talking about. If that's a possibility, we need some time to develop that. And that's what I would be asking for. What is the time period? If we don't hit that mark, and let's say it's 10 years, then we should open up the market completely. If we can't get our act together, go for it, gentlemen and ladies. I'm sorry.
Well,
go get it.
Senator, I guess the thing that concerns me in your comment is how you manage that development. where we are today, the opportunity's been created that no one would have predicted 5 or 6 years ago because the market found that equilibrium. It found the opportunity to put the downward pressure on the price. The same is true with the discussion we're having. The market will find that. Let's let the market fine-tune that, recognizing we have a vast supply in the United States, which is what's driving that price today in this country.
Well, I think where I am, if I can get an answer, has anyone come to an agreement identified on a amount of reserves that we have, proven reserves, and how many years based on demand right now? Because I read yesterday, no one can agree on anything. The brightest people in the country.
Well, it continues to change, Senator. In fact, 6, 7 years ago, some would estimate it about 20 to 30 years. Most recently, the EIA's estimated it's at least 90, 95 years. Other independent analysis, ICF, et cetera, have estimated it's 150 years. And there's some who believe it's 200 to 300 years worth of supply at current levels of consumption.
So
that's
basically,
it's evolving quickly because of this breakthrough technology as we define more resource. It's going up dramatically quickly.
well, here it is. I come from the private sector. I'm a free trader, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned that we're going to lose this opportunity of a lifetime, generational, if not more. But there has to be a balance, too. And that's what we keep looking for, that balance. So if we're saying we had a 10-year window, and we come to an agreement with the industry that as government, we've come to an agreement for a 10-year window that we'll have X amount of exporting. Why we develop the demand in this country, basically on transportational, manufacturing, and other things that we can develop that was left us, it will come back. I think Mr. Livers's company has been all over the world, and they're coming back because of this energy. And making sure that we never get caught in a world pricing such as an OPEC. Those are the concerns I would have as a citizen of this great country, and definitely as a U.S. Senator for my constituents. And I think that's what we're asking you. And I'll use this as a hypothetically. Let's say we agreed to 5 BCF a day, just for the sake of just throwing a figure out. Well, what are we exporting now?
Virtually none.
Okay.
Small.
So let's say 5 BCF a day is pretty substantial, correct?
Less than 10% of what we currently produce and consume.
Okay, so so if you're going to err on the side of caution while we're building up our consumption in this country, I'm not saying that's the hard rock figure, but let's just say and we have a 10-year window. If we can't get our act together and have an energy policy that works for this country, then all bets should be off and you should be able to do whatever you have to do. That's what I think we're kind of talking about and asking, if that's possible. And I understand if I was sitting where you, I would be cautioned about that.
But I don't want to comment on your ability to get an energy policy in the next 10 years, but
No, we got to get quicker than that.
But let me respond this way, Senator. I think the key is to look at the market fundamentals.
Yeah.
And what's happened today is, and I can't overstate this, what is happening today is unprecedented in the history of our country in terms of our opportunity to become energy secure and self-sufficient. Just think back 5 or 6 years ago. Nobody was having this conversation. Today, we're the world's #1 natural gas producer. It's now estimated through this advancement in technology, we'll be the world's #1 oil producer by 2020, 7 short years. That's how significant this is. That's why we're very reluctant to go down a road where we say, well, let's take this great opportunity that indicates where you've got vast supplies, and now let's bring the government in and see if we can't manage the development of the market.
Don't you think it's a fair evaluation when you look at all of the human sacrifices this country has made because of our lack of independence on energy? It's a tremendous price we've paid in human life and in value, if you would.
No, I think the point, Senator, is we've, again, going back to the supply, we've got ample supply. We've got vast supply as far as the eye can see. What we're seeing domestically, and those job numbers we're talking about are so realistic. Production in Pennsylvania, who would have thought? Pennsylvania is a huge natural gas state today. Your good state, as you know, is on the verge of a major breakthrough to become a big producer. Pennsylvania production's gone up 526%.
We're trying to create the jobs in West Virginia to use the product you're unleashing.
I'm just using that as an example because what's happening all across the country where we least expect it, Ohio, et cetera, we're creating hundreds of thousands of new jobs, and we don't need to view it as we used to view it in terms of scarcity. We don't have a scarce resource anymore.
But, well,
it's abundant, it's rich.
well, I've heard that before. I got to be honest with you. And Josh, I've heard it before, okay? The bottom line is we have a real golden opportunity to be able to use the product in America, in West Virginia, and other states around that have this find, and develop a whole new renaissance of jobs, quality jobs. So you can imagine if we're being a little bit cautious on this, okay? And we want to work with you, sir, I can assure you. Thank you.
Thank you.